and I am feeling some allergies from this weekend that are kind of popping up. So if I do sneeze in the middle of this, I apologize to everybody in advance. But we're going to get into the podcast. We're talking about going all in on your athletic career. So we're going to get into it in three, two, one. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast. And today, um, you know what? We're just going to restart that entirely. Wow, because I forgot the opening line of the show. So, three, two, one. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the show designed to help athletes gain an edge on their opponent and build their dream careers in sport. I'm your host, Kenny Dussault, and today I'm coming to you from Ottawa, Ontario, where I've been back visiting my family, and I spent the weekend at my brother's wedding. Uh, Second wedding, it's a whole thing with COVID, but anyways, not the whole idea of the show today. And so I'm in my parents' house, and today we're going to be talking about going all in on your athletic career. The reason I wanted to talk about this, the reason that I felt this was such an important topic to bring to you all today was that this is something that I see so many athletes struggle with. I had one of my business coaches ask me a question about the main pain points of the athletes that I work with. What are the biggest things they struggle with? And I was thinking about, well, do they struggle with more cardiovascular issues? Do they struggle with more power, speed, understanding training? What is it? And then it hit me that I think the overarching theme between athletes that I've worked with is they struggle admitting what they really want. Not only do they struggle admitting what they really want, but they struggle going all in to get it. And I think the main reason that this is such a struggle for so many athletes is they don't understand what going all in on your goals truly means. Well, so many athletes out there that say, I want to be a UFC champion. And then they start training a little bit, but they're not really willing to go that extra mile. And there's many different reasons that I think athletes struggle with that. And I think that athletes don't want to go that extra mile and don't want to go above and beyond is because number one, I think, is fear of judgment. How many of you that are here live right now have told a friend or a family member about a goal you have for your athletic career and gotten laughed at? How many of you have told a friend or a family member that, I'm going to be a fighter for a living and had them say, well, but probably have a plan B just in case that doesn't work out? And when you hear that enough times, when you have enough people tell you that what you want to do with your life isn't realistic, or what you want to do with your life is silly, or they don't understand it, or whatever other words they might use, that gets difficult to take. And when it gets difficult to take, we start to hide those goals. We start to maybe skip one or two of those training sessions because I don't want to feel like I'm obsessed with, this goal that probably isn't going to work out for me anyway. I want to just make sure that I can play at that nice, safe, comfortable level. And then I'm going to play at that nice, safe, comfortable level for a while. And once I've done that for a little while, then I can figure out some excuse as to why I didn't become an athlete. And so, really and truly, who I want to talk to today is those athletes that are feeling stuck. Those athletes that are feeling like they've hit that point in their career where they don't really know what their next step is. They don't really know, what they need to change, what they need to improve, the next level of what they need to get into in order to take their career to the next level. Or they entirely just don't know what that next level is. They're playing at a pretty high level right now. They're competing at a pretty high level right now, and they don't know how to jump up. They don't know how to go from where they are right now to that elite level. They don't know what makes that difference. And what I want to challenge you on, if you're an athlete listening to this right now and you feel that and you resonate with that feeling of not understanding what your next level is, or not understanding, what you need to change in order to reach that next level, if you resonate with that, what I want to challenge you on is to look internally. Look at your mindset. You tell yourself that you want to reach this next level. You tell yourself that you want to be a UFC champion. You tell yourself you want to make a living competing in your sport. But do you truly believe it? Do you truly believe that what you're doing right now is conducive to creating the dream career that you're going after? Do you believe that what you're doing right now is going to lead you to the success that you desire? Because if you don't, then something needs to change. I'll give you an example for myself. I've wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach since I was a kid. I've wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach since I was probably 13 years old. I know that's a little weird. Most people want to be athletes, and then when the athlete thing doesn't work out, they go to strength and conditioning. For me, I figured right from the early stages, an athletic career wasn't going to happen, but I wanted to coach. I love that feeling of working with an athlete, seeing the work we do pay off, and then having them excel and chase their dream. It was just my favorite thing ever from day one. And I knew this is what I wanted to do for a living. Now, over the last 16 years since I first started on that path, I've had tons and tons and tons of people tell me that it's not a realistic career. Ask me questions like, "Oh, that's cool that you want to do that. What do you want to do after you're finished doing that?" Whereas they didn't realize that no, when I say I want to do this for a living, I want to do this for a living. Like this is the only living I want to make. And the more and more people I had tell me that, the more I started to shy away from being public about this dream. The more I started to shy away from telling people this is what I wanted to do. And over time, this dream kept just sort of lingering in the back of my mind. And I kept coaching people, for free or for not very much money just to kind of keep it alive without really going all in and saying, if I want to make a career at this, I've really got to just do it. And it wasn't until I finished university when I decided I wanted to really pursue this all in at the top level that I could, but I still didn't really believe it. So I started talking about it more. I started deciding that, this was the career I wanted, but I hadn't seen anybody actually pursue it successfully. So in my head, it didn't really feel possible. And even honestly, not up until the last 6 months did I really understand that not only can I make a career at this, but I can make a good living at this. And having that switch in my mind made me realize that if I'm going to make a good living and truly reach the levels of impact and income and all of those things that I want in my career, the lifestyle I was living wasn't leveling up to that potential. The lifestyle I was living was not conducive to somebody who is going to make the kind of impact that I want to make. And so in the last few months, I've quit drinking. I've set myself a proper morning routine where I wake up at 4:15 every morning, and that gives me 3 hours in the morning that I'm getting work done. I'm reaching out to new clients. I'm making sure that I'm doing all the work I need to for my own clients. I've done more by 7:15 in the morning than most people have in their entire day because I know that in order for me to reach the levels of impact that I want to reach the levels in my business and in my life that I want to reach, I needed to make some changes and I needed to do some things that most people are going to think are crazy. And yeah, most of the time when I tell people that I wake up at 4:15 in the morning, they think I'm nuts. Most of the time when I tell people the way my average day looks, they think I'm nuts. And in the past, that would have triggered me and that would have set me back and that would have made me think, yeah, I've got to relax. I shouldn't, push so hard at this, whatever. Now I relish in that. Now when someone tells me I'm crazy, I go, yeah, damn right I'm crazy because I want crazy levels of success in my life. And if I'm going to achieve crazy levels of success in my life, my day-to-day life needs to be crazy. And I know that was a little bit of a tangent that I just took you guys on, but I want to bring that back to exactly what I was talking about in the beginning, which is if you want to reach crazy levels of success in your athletic career, if you want to be a UFC champion, if you want to be a boxing world champion, ADCC black belt champion in jiu-jitsu, whatever that career is for you, if you want to achieve crazy levels of success, if you have the audacity to sit here today and tell yourself, I'm going to be a world champion, I'm going to be the best in the entire world, your lifestyle is going to need to be a little crazy. You're going to need to train more than most people are willing to train. You're going to need to be willing to go to bed early when most people are going out on the weekends, getting drunk, doing all of that. You're going to need to be willing to wake up early in the morning so that you can get more in your day than other people can. And if you're not willing to do that, you don't truly want to be a world champion. If you're not willing to do that, you don't truly want the success that you tell yourself you want. Now, how do we find that success? How do we make those changes? What changes do you need to make in order to go from where you're at now to achieving those levels of success that you want? Because this is a very broad question. There are lots of areas we can change, lots of areas we can improve. And what I see a lot is athletes get stuck with shiny object syndrome. They get stuck with that mentality of, well, if I'm going to succeed, I need to start getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I need to start training every single day, 2 to 3 times a day. And I need to eat exactly this food at exactly this time. And if I'm not eating this amount of this food, then that's going to throw off my muscle development to stop. The chances are you are not in a position where any of those really, really fine details matter right now. But if you start getting stuck in the really, really fine, minute details of, exactly what food you're eating, exactly what time, or exactly what hour of the day you're getting up, or exactly what hour of the day you're going to bed, or any of those tiny little details in between, the chances are you're going to get burnt out focusing on too many things at the same time. And then you're going to start this cycle all over again, where you're going to make some progress, hit that plateau, and then drop off a cliff because this is getting too hard. So what I want you guys to look at, right? What I want you guys to do in order to solve this problem of the shiny object syndrome, but also gain real clarity on who you want to be in your athletic career. Number one, we're going to write down your dream career. So if you're here live right now, drop it in the comments. What level do you want to compete at? What level do you want to compete at? What organization do you want to compete for? What championships do you want to win in your lifetime? But not only around the career, around the income level. How many sponsors do you want to have? What kind of companies do you want sponsoring you? What kind of house do you want to live in? What kind of car do you want to drive? All of these questions are important, because it's one thing to say, I want to be a world champion, which is great. But if you have no clarity on what your life is actually going to look like, how do you expect to work towards that life? Whereas if you say, I want to be a UFC world champion, I want to be making over $1 million every time I fight, I want to have 10 different sponsors across these 10 different industries. Um, I want a platform from my sport so that I can give back to the community I grew up in, because I grew up in a dangerous community and I want to be able to give kids there a better life. Do you see how much more clarity I have immediately? So the first thing I want you to do is write down your dream career, not just career wise, but what kind of house you want to drive, what kind of house you want to drive, what kind of house you want to live in, what kind of car you want to drive, every detail of what your life looks like when you're able to make this career a reality. Because if you can have a detailed plan on what you want your life to look like, a detailed plan on exactly what your life is going to entail, now you know what you're working towards in every aspect of your life, not just in the sport. Number two, keeping with that dream vision, keeping with that dream career. What organization you want to compete for, what level of championship do you want to win, what kind of income do you want, what kind of impact on the people around you do you want to achieve. Now, what I want you to do is write down the gaps. Who is that person compared to who you are today? So for example, going back to my story from before, with the level of impact I want to have, I want to impact the lives of millions of athletes around the world. We have 3 people here live right now. My goal is to be doing these podcasts in 10 years and have 150 people here, have 1,000 people here, grow those numbers so that every time I'm speaking, I'm impacting thousands of people. Every year, I'm impacting millions of people. And the goal of having that kind of impact, when I looked at my life, I realized that drinking was taking away from that. And I was never a huge drunk or a huge alcoholic, but it was definitely something that I was doing consistently in my life that I wasn't getting enjoyment out of, that was also taking away from the goals that I have in my career, that was also taking away from the life I wanted to live. So I cut it out. And now By cutting that out, I have more days where I'm feeling better, more days where I have more energy, more days where more energy is going into these podcasts, more energy is going into my business, my clients, my coaches, every area of my life that is going to help me reach the levels of impact that I want to reach in my career. So, what I want you guys to do is write out the gaps. Who do you have to become to achieve everything in that dream career that you've just written out? Who do you have to become to achieve everything in that dream career that you've just written out? And now think about who you are right now. Where are the gaps between who you are right now and who you need to become to achieve everything in that dream career that you've written out? And this is your starting point, right? So for me, one of the big ones was drinking. And as time goes on, there's going to be more and more and more of these that pop up. But that was the main one that I've been focused on the last couple of months. Every time I'm in a situation where people are drinking, it's difficult to say, no, I'm good. But on the other side, I know that, for example, I was at my brother's wedding this weekend, and I don't need a couple of drinks in me to enjoy my brother's wedding. I can just go enjoy my brother's wedding. And without drinking, I'm going to wake up the next morning, I'm going to feel good, and I'm going to have more energy to pour into these podcasts, to pour into my clients, to pour into business, and to advance me towards the life that I actually want to be living 5, 10, 15 years down the road. So write out your dream career and then write out the gaps, who you are right now and who you need to become. Now, number 3, this is where we have our action plan. So you have your dream career. You have the gaps between where you're at right now and where you need to, where you want to be, where you want to go. Now, every time you sit and set goals for a week, every time you sit and set an action plan for a day, everything you do needs to be in service of that goal. Everything you do needs to be moving you towards that dream career that you're after. So, obviously, a large part of this is going to be skill set. Obviously, a large part of this is going to be, what you can do right now to improve the skills to help you reach the next level as an athlete. But I'm talking about more than that as well. I mentioned sponsorships when we were talking earlier. So, what can you do this week that can lead you closer to gaining a sponsorship, which can pay you more money, which can help move you further towards those financial goals that you have for your life? And if you don't know what to do, where can you research something that you can do to gain more sponsorship to move you closer to those financial goals that you have for your life? And I'll give you a really big hint on that. If you're looking for how to figure out, if you're looking for how to gain more sponsorship as an athlete, there's this magical tool called Google that has a lot of really good information. I'm working on some resources for that myself, but that is absolutely the best place to go right now. Google how to gain sponsorship as an athlete and start reading 30 minutes a day. That's something you can do right now as an athlete to move you closer to the goals you have for your career. Which actually leads me into one of the other points that I wanted to talk about in this episode, and this is going to be the last point that we bring up before we wrap up. But one of the main things that I see with my athletes, one of the main gaps that I see with people that I work with between where they're at now and the goals they want to achieve is having a full-time job. They work 40 hours a week, and because they work 40 hours a week, that's time that's taken away from training, and that time that's taken away from training slows down their progress to be able to reach those top levels of the sport. Now, instead of simply saying, well, I got to work to support myself, what I would challenge you to do if you're in that same situation is figure out how much income you need from sponsorships and from your sport itself to be able to not even quit the job, but drop down to part-time. Imagine how much better your training week is if you're working 3 days a week instead of 5. Imagine how much better your training week is if you're working 2 days a week instead of 5. So what can you do this week? What can you do this week that moves you closer to gaining the income as an athlete to be able to quit that full-time job and go all in on your sport, or drop down to part-time and go all in on your sport? So I hope you guys are seeing the difference between just continuing to practice and really figuring out what the gaps are between the life you're living right now and where you want to be with your sport. However, for this one, that is it. That is all. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. I appreciate you taking the time to tune in. I'm looking forward to bringing another episode to you guys, likely on Wednesday, as I'm going to be traveling back to Calgary tomorrow. So, hope you guys all have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again soon.